Hi, this video is to be a demonstration and tutorial of how to get up and running using the Augmentalist sensor effects system. For this example, we're going to be using a fidget slider that's connected to the fidget interface kit, which is then connected to the computer via USB, and the effect is going to be mapped to a filter on Traktor Scratch Pro. So to begin with, we need to get the sensor data into the system, and we do this on the start and stop sensor input section. First, we need to select which port our sensor is plugged into. So we have 8 ports on the interface kit with 8 buttons corresponding here. Because our slider is plugged into port 2, we can select the second radio button or change this to number 2. If we click start, we should now see that the slider moves along with the sensor. The next thing to set up is the gesture range. This is essentially the range of movement that affects the MIDI output. So at the moment, the whole range of movement on the sensor maps to the whole range of movement 0 to 127 on the MIDI out over on this side. However, we won't always want this to be the case. Sometimes we may want the effect to be completely brought in when we only have the slider half up or half down. We can do this very easily by setting the gesture range. We move the slider to the desired point of our maximum and click Set Max. Now that range of movement between the bottom and middle of the sensor is mapped to between 0 and 127 on the MIDI output. Going above this point does not affect the MIDI out. Now that the sensor range is set up, we can get it to output some MIDI. Double clicking on the CTL Out button down in the bottom right brings up the list of outputs, and we want to select from Max MSP1. When this is selected, the MIDI is sent down channel 1 and can be recognised by Traktor Scratch. If we go into the preferences of Traktor Scratch and into the controller manager section at the bottom, we can see a list of devices at the top. We want to add a new device that is a generic MIDI device. This Add In button contains a list of all the parameters that can be affected by MIDI input. For this example, we're going to use a simple filter. When we've selected what parameter we're going to control, we need to learn the MIDI from the Max MSP patch. Clicking Learn and moving the slider will enable Traktor to recognize the MIDI signal being sent. Now that this is set up, we should be able to affect the filter by moving the slider up and down, and you'll see that that range of movement between 0 and halfway up the slider maps to between minus 100% and 100% on the filter. Now we should be able to affect the song while it is playing with the filter using the slider.